claimed that the Los Angeles Lakers will win the 2013 championship, and this was a little off for me because I'm a Lakers fan, so don't hold anything against me. So, in response to the claim that the Lakers will win the 2012-2013 NBA championship, I claim that their win is not as likely as what was claimed. Giancarlo presented a good case, but it's not necessarily a definitive case as he made it seem. So although they improved their roster, they have more experienced players, and they're having more home games. As I said, this doesn't necessarily mean that they'll win the championship. The secondary claims that were presented were that players were traded to improve the roster, that they will have a better chance of winning because of the fact that they have more home games, and just the fact that they have such a roster that's filled with so many top quality players. So firstly, in response to the claim that the Lakers have substantially improved their roster, yes, the Lakers have improved their roster with Dwight Howard, but although he came to the Lakers, as of right now, and probably up until Christmas, he won't be playing. And that's due to a back injury. And medically, when players are injured with their back, this affects the player's range, mobility, lift, and strength. And all these qualities that are affected Howard because of his with his back are what made him great. So this kind of begs the question: does him being on the roster really give them such an advantage if he won't be playing for this long? And once he comes back, he won't necessarily be playing how he was before, which shouldn't be until Christmas. Secondly, in response to the claim that the NBA schedule favors the Lakers in terms of home games, although they are favored, or in a sense favored because of their home games, overall, as according to Sports Illustrated, they are second place in the West behind Oklahoma City, and in the East behind Miami Heat. And yeah, so although they are favored here, they're more likely to win here. Overall, the claim was made that doesn't truly represent the full data. Yes, they might win here more, but overall, that's not necessarily the case. Finally, in response to the claim that the experienced field team will increase their odds of winning, this isn't always the case, as seen with Miami in the past. In the past, other teams have had star-filled rosters, and they haven't necessarily won. In fact, when the claim was made, the data presented didn't really give a comparison compared to other teams, but the Lakers aren't that much highly favored than other teams. And in fact, when teams like this are made, it's criticized that that overdeveloping a team can disrupts chemistry in the team, and especially with the Lakers, when they start the new season tonight, they will not necessarily have the background with each other that other teams have, and this seriously hurts the team. I mean, basketball isn't a one person game; it's all about teamwork. So this whole unit might not necessarily work towards winning a championship, and teamwork is what it's all about. I mean, there's only so much time in a game, and there's only one basketball, and with so many big name players, odds are that they're going to be trying to fight for the ball, and eventually that'll cause their individual performance to be reduced. So ultimately, a star-studded roster does not guarantee a championship win, as seen in the past. Thank you.
All right, the advocate's main claim is listed. It's clearly stated. You kind of try to mitigate your own personal status on that. That's okay. You don't want to apologize for your position. Remember, you're just representing a competing point of view, and it's your right to present those counter arguments, even if you are a fan. The general counterclaim, I think, is basically an attempt to diminish the argument, suggesting that there is a probability or a likelihood that somebody else is going to win, not necessarily that the Lakers won't win. That's okay, but you're going to need to back that up a little bit more. I was not sure when you got down to the schedule issue how the data, for instance, about Oklahoma City and Miami was being compared. I think ultimately it comes down to their home records and which teams are best at home. And you're suggesting, for instance, that the Lakers have the third best home record in the league, at least based on the last year, which means that the chances of them being successful or more successful than these other teams actually depends on their ability to be successful on the road. So let's get some argument about whether or not they are good road dogs and can finish off when they're playing on the road. You label the secondary points, they get listed. It gets to be, you lag a little bit as you're presenting that. On the first point about improving the roster, you have a reasonable press on Howard, and you kind of explain those things. I think you could use a little bit of data on this. Is there, as the team said that he's not going to play until December? Is there a doctor who's evaluated his ability to function? Do we have past examples of people who've had similar kinds of injuries that have not been able to come back? That sort of thing. Anything like that would strengthen those arguments. I think you've got reasonable presses, but they're the kinds of things that you could say immediately after having heard the argument without having done any research. You've had a chance to do some research, and so you need to get that into the argument. We talked about the schedule issue a little bit already. On the argument that says that simply, the odds of winning is not automatic because of the star teams, I think that you've got a good press here again, but how about some examples of those teams that had a whole bunch of stars that didn't necessarily succeed? Or, for instance, you mentioned the issue of chemistry. Well, where are there teams that had problems with chemistry? You say it's all teamwork, despite Kobe's effort to make it an individual game. I suppose that you need to show us, why Kobe having to work with all these people is going to be, that some chemistry is going to work. He's already been saying, it's my team, that sort of thing. How do these other stars feel about it being Kobe's team and they're just the supporting players on this? Show that there might be some ability. And I think you're missing the easiest piece of evidence of all. They haven't won a game in the preseason. They're supposed to be the preseason favorites, and who have they played in the preseason and couldn't beat any of those people? I'm not exactly sure that there's reason for people to feel confident here, so I think you're missing some tricks there. However, you do get bonus points for the nice jacket.